end of life. And to the extent that this could be any time now, we're going to have to stop using those. So now is really this extra pressure to try to get a new space. The question is, okay, if we need a new one, where are we going to put it? What should it be? The idea up until fairly recently has always been, the idea of the trustees anyway, has been that we would try to do an expansion on that site. Obviously, there's not room on the existing lot there, but over the course of several years in the late 90s, we went twice to the voters, got 2 warrant articles approved for land purchases. And in fact, as time went on, the owners of 2 of those properties, 47 Ferry and 49 Ferry, both came and offered to sell us those properties. And we have in fact purchased them. Those are now town-owned. So, and that is actually, probably would be enough space to build an addition there. We, a couple of years ago, actually did a design of a potential addition there, which would have been great. There's a number of reasons why that would have been good. I mean, of course, there's the historic building. It would be really nice to have that part of the library, if it were possible. The other thing is that's the general location, that's about as close to the center of town as you can get. I mean, there are others that might be technically more, geographically central. But in terms of the major arteries, that's kind of where everything comes together. It's also something that you could, if there is a place now, it would be, that would be it, town center. You've got the town hall, you've got, the library, you have the school administration building. You've got a couple of schools, a couple of elementary schools across the street. You've got the middle school actually within walking distance of there, if they wanted to walk. This would be a reasonable place. You've got, of course, Library Park is up there. This would be a reasonable thing to try to consolidate that as the center of town. It would be nice, just in terms of planning. The problems. Why aren't we still trying to build there? The original idea was to build a library based on a study we had done and updated on library needs evaluation of the town. Given the population and all of that sort of thing, what sort of a facility would the library people recommend that we have? How big would it be? What kind of facilities would it offer? That building was, that was the basis for the design that we did on that site that I mentioned. The problem is that building that design was, at a very rough estimate, was going to be at least $7 million, and possibly a little more as we wait and construction costs went up. It could have been more than that, but it would certainly have been $7 million. That was the number we put into the CIP at one point. When that was proposed, we didn't get a real positive reaction. Basically, neither the selectmen nor the budget committee really wanted to have anything to do, nor the CIP, for that matter, committee, really wanted to have anything to do with the $7 million building. So we tried, but if rather than not have a library at all, we went back, rethought it, and came back with a proposal of about half of that. Now, half of that has a couple of consequences. Of course, it means you get a lot less library for it. It would still be well worth doing. It's sort of in the middle. Instead of building the library that would last us for 50 years, this won't last that long in terms of size. The chances are really good that we will have to expand it as we, some point in the future. But it's certainly much bigger than the one we've got right now. It's twice the size of what we have, or more than twice the size of the existing building. So it's a definite step in the right direction. That'll last us for a while. Then the question is, where do you build it? Well, you could still build that. If you could build the full building there, obviously you could build half that size. But there's some problems. One of them is the asbestos. Excuse me. Obviously, everybody's always known there is asbestos in those two Ferry Street properties. Not really so much right around the library on that lot, but in the place where it was filled as you go up Ferry Street. Actually, all along Ferry Street, as far as I know. That's all fill. And a lot of it was as asbestos. The question is, how big a problem is that? If you keep the properties as residential properties, it really isn't a big problem. And the properties are there. As long as you don't, as you just leave the land basically more or less undisturbed, you're okay. Because the asbestos is mostly not on the surface. It's dirt. However, if you build something there, even a parking lot, which is what we would do, that means going in and demolishing the two houses that are there, or whatever you do, whether you demolish them or you pick them up and you move them, you're doing major disruption of the ground. Also, in terms of just to get drainage on a parking lot, you have to do a certain amount of digging and disruption of the land. So it is a problem, and it's a fairly expensive one. I mean, we're talking about, well, we don't know exactly, because it would depend on what the design is and what kinds of amelioration we could work out. But you're probably talking a couple $100,000 or more, even for just a parking lot. So what does that mean? If you're looking at a $7 or $8 million building, a couple $100,000 you might be able to kind of work in somewhere, and it might still be worth it. But when you're looking at only $3.5 million, $200,000 to $300,000 becomes a big chunk of that money. And basically that's the number we're looking at. I mean, we're not looking at that number plus a lot of add-ons. That's the number we're looking at to build the library, whatever it costs. So that makes it a little tougher. There are a couple of other issues, though. One of them, just for example, we really start thinking about it. If we want to build a library building there, I mean, what would the actual practical process be? You could do it, but basically there's not a lot of extra space in that area. And, pull the two trailers out, build a building on that parking lot, that doesn't leave you a lot of space for construction equipment, for construction storage, for whatever activities they're doing. And it basically means that you would have to shut down the library at that site for the duration of the construction. I mean, there'd be no place for people to park. You wouldn't want them running through a construction site to get in. What would we do? I mean, could we move the library somewhere else for a year and a half? Well, maybe, but obviously that would not be cheap. We'd have to find a place. We'd have to do it, which is not an easy job. So that's a real negative factor for keeping the thing there. It's another reason to look for an alternative.